Hi, Julie Jones from SSB Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training, here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear. This week we're talking about coaching or criticism. How can we get those we lead to take our feedback as something that helps them move forward, instead of something that helps them get distracted or become emotional? We know that this is an issue for all of us in leadership. It's an issue for all of us as followers as well. We often get overtaken by the tone or our own disposition or mindset at the time when someone is giving us feedback, or when we're giving feedback, it is often taken differently than we intended. I've been told many times as a coach, you don't need to yell. And my first response was, this is not yelling. We're just instructing. I distinctly recall being at a game where our third baseman tried to get the lead out on a sacrifice bunt twice and failed. And finally I said, let's not do that again. I don't really remember the tone, but it may not have been that kind. And then of course the next ball is hit to her and it's an error because now I'm in her head because of the feedback that I had and the frustration that she was feeling, both. So my feedback, even if it would have been the nicest thing said, could have just added on to the frustration that she felt. Our feedback is often sort of filtered through our current emotions or how we feel about what just happened, obviously. I was talking with a parent of an athlete that I work with just yesterday, and her son was running, and he's a really good runner, and he came up around the bend in a cross-country meet, and his coach said, whatever the time was. And immediately that took him from subconscious, I'm just running brain, to, oh my gosh, I might not make my PR brain. And he turned the corner, came around, and threw up. Had to stop because he was a little disheveled, obviously, and then missed his PR by just a few seconds. So that feedback was neither, constructive nor destructive. It was just factual, but that feedback didn't land as intended as well. So what do we do in coaching? It's inherent in coaching, and the definition of coaching is to help people move along, or to instruct, or to help people learn, to help them make changes. And in order to do that, we have to give feedback. We have to tell people what we see. And in order for us to get better, we have to accept what other people see in us. Every great player has a coach. Every great leader has a coach. Think about all the people that you know that talk about, oh, my leadership coach or this coach or that coach. Everybody's got a coach. So what do we do with all this feedback that's floating out there that takes us away from our game? Well, the good part is that we are wired to be able to manage feedback. Unfortunately, our innate wiring is wired to see threat. So everything that comes to us initially, we're like, whoa, wait a second. But if we can have a little bit of a system on how to manage this feedback, we can all be a little bit better. So what can we do? How can we get those that we work with to accept feedback without tying it to emotion, without it just being a distraction, without it being a criticism or a disappointment or a personal attack? How can we do that? Now, granted, sometimes we attack and sometimes we get attacked, and sometimes feedback isn't positive, and sometimes feedback isn't even useful. But most of the time, as a coach, we brought these people here to make us better. And most of the time, we're giving feedback in order to help make everyone grow. So, in order to grow, what do? Number one, the business leader, her name is Mellody Hobson. She's also just happens to be married to George Lucas from Star Wars. But she said this recently in a podcast with Adam Gant. She's also the chairwoman of Starbucks and the CEO of a major company, obviously, Ariel Investments. But she said she was told feedback was not a right. You're not entitled to it. So whenever you get it, it's a gift and you have to treat it that way. So this is where our power moves come in. Power move number one, right? Choosing one thought over the other. We can choose one thought or the other. We can look at this feedback differently and ask ourselves the questions, does what this person is saying change my ability to throw, kick, swim, speak, move? That's the question. Does what they're saying change me? So do the words that are coming into my ears change my ability to do my job? The answer to that obviously is a hard no. But we don't take it that way. So even if we can think of it like, okay, what they're saying does not affect the way that I can perform, I can choose to take the information and move and act and choose one thought or the other, whether this is going to make me upset or this is going to allow me to make an adjustment and use whatever my tactical and technical or even intellectual skills are to move forward. So number one, we can choose one thought or the other and decide whether the words that are coming into my ears alter my ability to act. And we know the answer to that is no. Not even a really, honestly, a loud noise doesn't even alter our physical ability. It alters our attentional ability, but not our ability to throw, swing, whatever it is that we do. So that's number one. Number two, as author and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl said, this is a great time to employ a pause. And what he says, and let's see if I can find it here, is between stimulus and response, there is a space. And I'll add in that this is where our power comes from, power move number two. That space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. I'm going to repeat that. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. We can always change the way we respond. One way that we can respond to feedback is to automatically ask a question. What words were used that I need to filter out? Wouldn't it be awesome if we had this filtered? I can sort of picture it. So we've got the words that come out, and then we've got this like sieve thing that you like use for cooking, and I don't cook, so I don't know what anything's called, but it would filter out like, stuff that water goes through. It'd filter out all of the emotion and all of the predisposed frames of reference that we have and all these other things. This sieve would just, filter out everything else, and then the words only would go into our brain, into the worknick, which is on the right hemisphere, which helps us comprehend things, that part of our brain. It goes in there, and then we take that information to work with it. Wouldn't that be awesome? Like you can picture this thing being built like right into your head. That'd be great. Well, there isn't one, but our filter can be questions. We can use questions to filter the information. Some questions. What can I do with this to make this situation or me or anything better? What can I do with this to make things better? The other questions we might ask might be these. What did I do to initiate this feedback? What does someone see in me, especially if it's been repeated? What do they see in me that I need to be aware of that's sort of prompting this feedback? The other questions might be, do I need to pause and stop and just take a minute? Observe the landscape, see what I need to do, maybe even just take a step back before I lean in to punch or get emotional. Take that pause. Do I need to ask another question? Do I need to ask a question to get further clarification? Do I need to stop? Do I need to walk away? Do I need to step up? What do I need to do? Asking questions moves this, whatever this is, from the problem side of the board that we have to the solution side. Every time we ask questions, our brain starts to seek solutions. And instead of moving to the emotional limbic system, we are now still in our thinking system and using this information and processing it as data. We're looking at it as data. Data to help us adjust variables to help us perform better. That's power move number two, choosing the way we respond. I say the filter could be questions. Number three, we can go back to last week's tool and think about deliberate rehearsal. How awesome would it be if when someone gives us feedback, we look at it and say, okay, repeat it, words only, however we need to hear it. We take it in, we talk to ourselves however we need to hear it at the time. Then we see the adjustment that needs to be made or that says it needs to be made. And then that is stored in our brain. We're priming our brain and our body to do it the next time this opportunity comes up. Sounds like a great idea. Nice plan. None of these are foolproof, but what we're doing is we are taking feedback and we are filtering it one way or another. We're either saying, is this going to really change? Is this change the way that I physically move? No, it does not. I can still persist regardless of what's going on around me. I can persist because I can choose one thought over another, and I can choose to act. And whenever I act, I'm in more control. Number two, obviously we can always take the pause. We can always ask a question. We can use our own systematic filter to take the words, use them as data, and then implement them as needed. And then lastly, again, we can deliberately rehearse it. We can say it, then we can see it so that we're ready to do it. Feedback is critical to growth. If the coach isn't talking to you, they're probably not in the plan, right? Isn't that what you tell your athletes? If I'm not talking to you, then you're in trouble. If I'm talking to you, that means I believe you can do it. Feedback is a gift. It's not guaranteed. It's a gift. Someone is telling us because they care. And if we can look at things this way, it's going to make us better. Not all feedback is warranted. Not all feedback is productive, but most of it is. But here's the truth of it. Whatever the feedback is, we can learn from it. We learn something about ourselves, and we also learn something about the person giving it to us. But we've got to sort through all the other stuff to get that one grain of truth. Even if there's just one grain of truth in there, that can make us better. And that's our goal. Despite what's going on in how we feel about who's giving us feedback, if we can take any data and have it build us up, then we ultimately win, regardless of how we feel about what was said. So this week, maybe you think about how you're giving feedback, but more importantly, maybe we're helping those we lead understand how they can better manage the feedback that we're trying to get so we can all grow. And in the meantime, we listen and learn as well. So until next week, manage the feedback, manage the way you manage feedback, manage moments. Have a great week. If I can work with your team or help you in any way, you know where to reach me, JulieJ at ssbperformance.com. See you next time.